Writers, today I want to teach you that often writers will shift back and forth between reading to collect and record information and writing to grow ideas. As note takers, then, researchers record and also reflect. When reflecting, researchers think and talk and jot about patterns, surprises, points of comparison or contrast, and they even entertain questions. You'll remember that yesterday we looked at Ashley's notebook and talked about the different things that she had done in her notebook while she was taking notes. She had crossed things off, she had highlighted things, she'd numbered things, she added notes in the margin. And you know that I often suggest over these past few days that in order to take notes, it's often helpful to read a chunk and then pause after that chunk. And when your head is totally full, rethink about what you have just learned. That pause time can be a time to recall and hold on and organize what you have just learned, which might lead to quick boxes and bullets outline of what you are taking away from the text. And it can also lead you to thinking about what you have just read. I'm going to demonstrate this for you so you'll see what I mean. I'm going to read from the book called Who Settled the West by Bobby Kallman. And then I'll look back on some notes that I took, and I'll shift to the reflecting sort of note making. Okay. And this is a section called The Race West. Okay, The Race West. People in the United States and Canada became more interested in the West. They heard stories about rich ranchers, huge areas of unused land, and gold finds. These two countries grew fearful that they might lose this land to each other or Mexico. They needed citizens to go and occupy the land in order to keep it. Both governments offered cheap land to anyone who claimed it, and the race to settle the West began. When I first read this, I recorded a few facts that I'm going to look back on now. This is what I had written. U.S. and Canada wanted to keep land in the West, and government offered cheap land to settlers who wanted to get rich. Those were facts that I had read from this section, Who Settled the West. Now comes the part that I'm going to show you today. I'm going to pick up my marker and I'm going to do a free write so as to grow some of the ideas now that I've read this part and gathered some facts, thinking about patterns or surprises and maybe even asking some questions. So as I'm thinking back on this part, Who Settled the West, I'm thinking that I might ask myself the question, why didn't Mexico do the same thing? Why didn't they offer land to their people? Why wouldn't Mexico have offered land to their people? Maybe Mexico didn't realize how valuable the land was, or maybe they were worried about keeping their own country. They were busy fighting for independence from Spain. Busy fighting for independence Maybe they felt as though they already had enough land and they didn't want to fight with the US and Canada. So did you see how I shifted from taking just the facts notes into a free write about those facts, entertaining some patterns or some questions that I might have had about what I read? You got to push yourself to think more about your nonfiction text. So researchers, you're going to try this process of growing your ideas today on your own, with your own writing. Push yourself to see questions or patterns in what you're reading. Ask yourself a question, okay? And if you think of something as you're reading, as you're doing research today, stop and jot fast and furious, okay? So researchers, to give yourself space for continuing research today on your westward expansion, you might want to take your flash draft and cut it apart, and you might want to paste onto new notebook pages so that you have room to add notes that you come across in your research today, kind of like Ashley did her crossing out and her highlighting. Maybe you just have more pages that you want to add, or sticky notes, which is fine too. Maybe you're going to do boxes and bullets on new pages, and that's okay as well. Some things to keep in mind about information writing. When you're an information writer, think about the topic and the parts of the topic to write about. Plan how the writing might go. Research, taking notes, that's kind of what we've been doing this week. Draft, we started that already on Wednesday. Revise with various lenses. This is the part we worked on today that you're going to get to try in just a second. Growing ideas, looking for patterns, asking questions. Off you go.